Hi, everyone. We're just admitting a bunch of people into the webinar, so stay with us until we get everybody in. We've got Karen trying to connect to audio. So just so I know you can hear me, either unmute yourself and say hello or give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat so that I know that everything's working technically on our end.
Linda, David Prying from the Chamber. Can hear you just fine. It looks good.
Good. All right. Thanks, David. Are you stretching your neck, Dave?
I just got a attachment, but it's scanned all wrong. But yes, probably a good.
Yeah.
Probably something there.
It's like you're doing a little self DIY chiropractic move.
Not too shabby. Yes.
All right, Karen's in. So we are recording. You'll get the little got it, that you understand we're recording the video. And that's because we are going to be putting the recordings on the Accessibility Solutions YouTube page for anyone that wants to go back and have a look at them or maybe wasn't able to join us. So we are expecting a few more people, but in order to kind of get started, which honors your time for showing up on time, we can let people in. I've got here's another couple people that are coming in now. So this is a webinar series, Accessibility is Good for Business. I do want to thank our partners. So David, thank you from the Chamber of Commerce. We've got the Grand River Council on Aging. Lucy Marco was the first one to jump on board when I kind of floated this around, and the Brantford Brant Business Resource Center. So the partnership really is for you to also be able to share, first of all, the live webinars with your audience, but certainly the recordings are available for you to access as well. So a little bit, just admitting a bunch of people here. So a little bit about me. I am the CEO of Accessibility Solutions. I'm an award-winning accessibility consultant, speaker, author. I've also been a longtime advocate for accessibility. But where I really bring experience to accessibility being good for business is the fact that my husband and I have owned and operated our own business here in Brantford for just over 32 years. I also spent a number of years working with some business development organizations around Southern Ontario as both a business consultant and a trainer. And I myself am a person with a disability, so I bring the lived experience part of what I'm going to present today to the conversation. Little housekeeping. So yeah, if you want to mute yourselves while the presentation's going on, as we are going through the presentation, please put any questions you've got in the chat. And when we get to the question and answer section, I will go through any questions in the chat. As I said, we are recording, so make sure you click that that's okay. We're recording you. If you want to be on video, great. If you don't, it's no problem. And as I said, I think we'll get started. This is the first webinar in a series of 6 webinars that we're going to be holding in 2022. So we will get to what the topic for the next one is when we get to the end of this presentation. So today's topic is the business case for accessibility. And really, accessibility is good for business. So we're going to talk today about, can we turn the captioning on? Thea, you should be able to do it at your end. Yeah, like I have it at my end here. So do you have the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen? No, it's not showing for you. Well, that's a technical glitch that we didn't anticipate. Let me just see what I can do here.
You can turn them on in PowerPoint, Linda.
Okay, let me. Okay, so I'm screen sharing. So me. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And Trish, if you can give me a quick way to do that, I'll do it. All right, Thea, yes, I can give you the transcript. So, because we are recording, so the transcript will be available. I'm gonna, okay, so let me go back to my screen sharing here then. Apologize because for some reason at the bottom, mine does say that we can. Okay. So we want to, as I said, so I want to thank our partners.
I found it, Linda.
Okay.
Is it too late, or do you want to give it to you? It's in PowerPoint under slideshow. And there are subtitle settings. Always use subtitles. So go to slideshow, then subtitle settings, and then you can turn on subtitles.
And I don't think it's going to let me do it because I'm sharing this. I've already started the slideshow. Okay, well, Thea, we're going to get you the transcript, and we will sort this out for our next one, because as I said, I have it at the bottom of my I have it at the bottom of mine to turn on closed captioning, but not everyone actually does, I guess. Oh, here we go. Maybe. All right. Now, okay, so can everybody see, what are you seeing on the screen? Because
We see your slides, Linda.
Yep, they're there.
Yep.
The title slide.
got it. Okay. All right. Okay, so now the closed captioning is on. So thank you for that, Trish. And Thea, you can see that now. So the agenda for today is really how accessibility will improve your business bottom line. We're going to talk about the spending power of persons with disabilities and their impact on the economy, how business or how accessibility will give your business a significant competitive advantage, and why all businesses need to embrace a culture of inclusion in order to thrive, how persons with disabilities can complement your staff team. And as I said, we're still admitting people. So thank you all for joining us. So your business bottom line, 22% of the population, which is 6.2 million Canadians, that's the number of Canadians living with a disability that either impairs their mobility, their vision, or their hearing. That number is going to continue to rise at nearly double the pace of the population as a whole. And the reason for that is we're going to get to in the next slide, but really, can your business afford to ignore this market? The reason that this is going to continue to increase is baby boomers. And so everyone's heard about the market size of baby boomers, but what people don't really think about when they think about baby boomers is that 40% of baby boomers, which are people over the age of 65, have a disability that impairs their mobility, their vision, or their hearing. So although spending on restaurants, retail, and entertainment currently makes up a smaller share of their monthly expenditures, they would spend more on these items if they were more accessible. The number one spending that persons with disabilities make are groceries. So grocery stores for sure need to be accessible, but all of these other businesses, restaurants, retail, entertainment, are businesses that would be able to get a share of this consumer market if they were accessible. So there is a strong demand for entertainment, recreation, and participation in sport and other physical activities, but it's currently going unmet because of accessibility barriers. So real spending by this group will rise to 25% of the total consumer market. So a competitive advantage, there is a desire and an unmet need for more businesses to be accessible. So why not yours? It gives you a significant competitive advantage. Businesses that are accessible have very loyal customers. As a person with a disability, I know that if I find a business, whether it be a store, a restaurant, an event venue, a service that I am seeking out, accessibility usually is well, for me, it has to be the number one thing that I look at. But when I am going out to a restaurant or one of these other stores to do some shopping, I'm very loyal to businesses that are accessible. So what also you want to consider when you're looking at the investment in making your business accessible is the lifetime customer value in terms of the dollars they will spend there. So if you are an accessible restaurant, for example, I'm going to come and, while providing your food and service is good, which you've probably done a good job at, your accessibility is going to be the number one reason that I'm going to come back. So it gives you a huge return on investment in making your business accessible because of that competitive advantage that it's going to give you. And for those of you who just joined us, as I said, if you've got any questions, then please put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. The other thing that I like to talk about in terms of the size of this market is what I call the sphere of influence. So for every one person with a disability, their family, friends, and colleagues are also influenced by the accessibility of a business. So if I'm going out shopping with my husband, for example, then as a person with a disability, and now my husband who's accompanying me, or my friends that are joining me, shopping businesses that are accessible are certainly getting not just my business, but anyone that's with me, their business as well. The same with restaurants, event venues, recreation, and travel. These are all businesses that are impacted by the sphere of influence that that person with a disability has, because anyone accompanying them is going to be influenced by the accessibility of that business. There are also more women than men with a disability, and that impairs their mobility, vision, or hearing. And this gap will continue to grow through the forecast because the population is aging. Statistically, women outlive men, but from a spending decision perspective, women usually make the spending decision. And I see a few men that are smirking there that are well aware that that your wife or significant other is the one that's maybe making the decision. I certainly know in our household that's it's not just me as the person with the disability, but it's also me as the as the wife that's deciding where we're going to eat, where we're going to shop, where we're going on vacation, what kind of events we're going to. So that's something to give some thought to as well. So the spending patterns of persons with disabilities. So given the spending power of them and the fact that their share of the consumer market will continue to grow, businesses must be aware that the current limitations that exist in serving that market and how they can tap into the market in the future is by making accessibility improvements to their business. Conference Board of Canada conducted a survey back in 2017, and at that point, 43% of respondents with moderate to severe disabilities indicated that their current condition limited their ability to purchase goods and services outside their home. Many of these individuals believe that improvements in accessibility would make a difference in their ability to interact and engage in their community, but also spend their money as desired. So persons with disabilities, I think the takeaway here is that they have money to spend, and the accessibility of your business is going to be a direct impact on whether they choose to spend the money at your business or a business that is more accessible. So the economic impact of improved accessibility, making facilities and workplaces more accessible allows more people with disabilities to work, and many who are already employed will be able to work more. By 2030, the lift to the economy's productive capacity due to improved workplace accessibility would result in a permanent increase in the GDP of over $16.8 billion. So not only is accessibility good for your business, it really is good for the economy. Boost to labor income would lift real personal disposable income by $10.6 billion, facilitating a $10 billion increase in consumer spending. So this is persons with disabilities are now working, so they have more money to spend and they're going to be spending it in accessible business. So these real GDP and income gains would also generate real revenue for both the federal and provincial governments. So this is like a win-win-win. So embracing a culture of inclusion. Accessibility and inclusion should be part of your overall organizational strategy. When inclusive values are incorporated into strategy, policy, and accessibility becomes more intentional and carries through to plans and action. This is more than just a legal standard or a specification or a box to check that you've filled out your accessibility compliance report. It really involves fostering a sense of inclusion so people with disabilities can flourish. So I think everybody that's in business is well aware that there is a labor shortage, and that labor shortage is only going to increase as the population ages, because there are more people leaving the workforce as the population ages because they're retiring. But there are fewer people entering the workforce than are leaving it. So opening up your business to employing persons with disabilities is really going to significantly add to the future pool of workers and also the quality of life for individuals with disabilities. So accessible and inclusive hiring practices give your business another significant competitive advantage. Persons with disabilities are the most overlooked and underutilized workforce in Canada. Improvements to workplace accessibility would allow 550,000 Canadians with disabilities to work more, increasing the GDP by $16.8 billion by 2030. So these are real numbers. These are persons with disabilities that are going to come and work in your business. They're going to earn a living wage. They're going to then be able to spend that money that they earn on businesses that are accessible. So I really, in summary, there's a powerful economic incentive for making businesses and institutions accessible to people with disabilities. But it's really a win-win-win cycle. So greater access to employment deepens the labor pool and increases incomes. That, combined with faster growth in the population of persons with disabilities, gives this group substantial consumer clout. So these people have, we're going to have people with disabilities that are earning money. We're going to have people that have retired, baby boomers that have money to spend. And all of that, whether your business gets a share of that, is going to depend on the accessibility of your business. So people with disabilities clearly want to spend those dollars in their communities, working, shopping, and enjoying leisure activities just like everyone else. So I just want to go now. I'm going to just pull up the chat. So see if I don't see any questions in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself, and we'll take any questions around the presentation. Anyone have any questions? It's clear as mud for everybody. Questions, comments, good, bad, or otherwise?
Hi, Linda. This is Thea Curdy from Designable Environments.
Hi, Thea.
I don't know if you're familiar with our work.
I am.
Oh, okay, great. So we're built environment accessibility specialists who are working with businesses of all kinds and government to help create the physical built environments for accessibility. So there's lots of really good resources. So I know when people are starting to think about this and trying to think about, how do I do this? How do I transform my business? What do I need? What does that look like? How would I plan for it? There's a ton of great, detailed, free resources available that people can access. Many of our municipalities, particularly in Ontario, have free municipal standards, typically called accessibility design guidelines, or something similar to that. So you can look up your local set of requirements. And Linda mentioned that there's a legal aspect to this in addition to the benefits to business. That's usually what we're talking about with clients, is that the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal has pointed out, unfortunately, that our legislation in the form of the Ontario Building Code and the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, unfortunately do not meet the requirements of the Human Rights Code. So most of our clients are coming to us and saying, how do we fill this liability gap? So we're capitalizing on the business opportunity, but how do we fill the liability gap? So you really are looking for more than code minimum as opportunities for these kinds of improvements. There's also a CSA document, or a Canadian Standards Association document, called B651. There's a 2018 version out that's available for purchase. There are some free copies on the internet that you can find. There's also additional free resources from the Canadian National Institute for the Blind in the form of the CNIB's Clearing Our Path. If you do a Google search for that, that'll take you directly to their website as well, full of details about specifically how to make sure built environments are accessible to people with vision loss or who are blind. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of interject that if you're interested in pursuing this, I also spoke at the Ontario BIA Association this past fall, and that there's a recording of as well to talk a little bit about some of the benefits and some of the resources and some of the legalities as well. So if people are interested, there's a lot of really good information already in the marketplace to help you. Thanks, Linda. This was great.
Oh, no, and thank you, Thea. I've been on several conferences kind of with Thea She really is an expert when it comes to kind of the built environment. What I do when we work with businesses, we talk about everything from the built environment, but in my case, as a person with a disability that uses a power wheelchair, accessibility to your business literally starts in the parking lot. So can I get parked? How close is the nearest curb cut? And this is accessibility that's starting from the point that I've left my wheelchair accessible van. So first of all, can I get parked and deploy my ramp? That's usually challenge number one. And then it's, can I get in your door? And this is where Thea's expertise comes in. Can I get in your door? Can I, once I get in your door, can I navigate through your store? Can I get seated at a table that's wheelchair accessible? And I just made a reservation for my daughter's 25th birthday, which is happening this weekend. But a reservation at a restaurant for me, first of all, includes me doing the research that restaurant is accessible. But then when I call for the reservation, I'm also making sure that the restaurant understands that, I'm making a reservation for 5. One of us is in a wheelchair, so has to be a table, can't be a booth, that kind of thing. And then we get into the whole is, the washrooms, all of that kind of stuff. So we are, we, meaning persons with disabilities, are really a market that, like I said, no business can afford to ignore, but there's just so many considerations when you're talking about business accessibility. So as I said, it starts in the parking lot, right through to, if I'm shopping, how can I get my purchases back out to my van? So that, what we're really hoping with this webinar series is that we're going to go through a lot of these steps one by one, where we're addressing individual business concerns and questions. So today was really an overview on the business case for accessibility. So why we're talking about the size of the market, and the fact that market is growing. So every business needs to start, if they're not already considering accessibility, they really need to start, because if they don't, they are going to be left behind as we call it. Well, baby boomers, we call it the silver tsunami, but keeping in mind that figure that 40% of baby boomers, people over the age of 65, have a disability of some sort. And now we're talking about huge numbers, a huge consumer market that, if your business is not accessible, is not going to thrive. So I've got a couple of questions in the chat. So Donna has said, can you address available programs for accessibility training? And I'm assuming, Donna, just you're talking about staff training, which next month's session, which is all about the AODA and your requirements to comply, we'll certainly address that. But available programs, I'm not sure if you're meaning programs that have staff training or programs for funding staff training. So maybe if you want to just come on speaker and clarify that, I'd appreciate that. Are you able to unmute yourself, Donna? All right, I'm going to reach out to Donna a little bit later. Now, Thea has also said the AODA deadline for making Ontario accessible is 2025, which is less than 3 years. And I will tell you, yeah, I was around in 2005 when this legislation was passed, which gave us 20 years for this to happen. So here we are with 3 years to go, and we've got a long, long way to go. But that's a whole other webinar or series of webinars. And as I said, next month's webinar will be on the AODA and why your business must comply. Thea's given us a couple of resources. Donna says, yes, staff training. So programs. So accessibility solutions, we do staff training. Staff training, first of all, is a requirement under the AODA. But in terms of business accessibility, the reason that staff training is required under the AODA is because there is an accessible customer service standard, which has a mandated staff training component. Programs to train your staff. I mean, yeah, you can Google staff training programs. My concern with a lot of the online modules that are there is that there is a requirement for businesses to make sure that they train their staff on their individual policies and procedures. That doesn't happen if you do the kind of boilerplate staff training. The other requirement is that you are required to train your staff on devices that you've got in your particular workplace. So for example, I went to an event venue. This was a couple of years ago now, but there was actually no staff there that knew how to use the stair lift. So when I went in, the actual event venue that I was attending, you went in the door and then it was like a lowered area for gathering before the event started. So you could just well imagine, here I am, I get in the door and there was a stair lift, but there was no actual staff there that knew how to work it, which kind of meant that, you know, now I've paid for a ticket and I can get in the door and I can stand at the top of I can, in my case, sit at the top of the stairs. And it took probably a good 30 minutes for them to find a manager that, and all it required was a key. But again, nobody, the event staff that were there working the floor didn't know how to use it. Nobody knew that there was a key that needed to be found and who had the key. And so you can well imagine that made the experience for me attending, in my case with my family, this event venue. I mean, I get in the door, but then I can't get down the stair lift to the sunken area that was the where everyone was gathering before they went into the actual event. Yes, oh Trish, yes, I've certainly got I've got, yeah, great stories. Yeah, I've got some real horror stories. I can tell you the story about last weekend. My husband and I went to Toronto for our anniversary, and I thought we would use the path to go from Union Station to our hotel. And so the path, for anybody that's been to Toronto, is kind of like the underground way to get there. And it was raining when we arrived on the Friday. Anyway, for what above ground was a 12-minute walk, my husband pushing my lift, took us an hour and 20 minutes through the path, because it seemed like we would go so far and then we had to buzz for somebody to either use a lift, use one of the little stair glide things, or we would get to somewhere that that needed us to basically take we'll call it the back door route out into a parking garage and then enter through another elevator. So, you know, that kind of thing, just, you know, I could do a whole session on, you know, proper signage for just trying. So Donna says she was referring to in-house training. So yes, as I said, we do training for staff. And does it need to be annually? It's not that it expires, but it certainly has to be new. Any new staff have to be trained within a reasonable amount of time. And again, this will cover under the AODA. Got one more message. Donna says, thank you, much appreciated. Any other questions that people have got in there? Thank you to Thea and Trish for your comments that are resources. Zach says, great point about the opportunity to engage those with disabilities in the workforce. Any tips for prospective employers? Yeah, the biggest challenge that we find when we're working with employers is that there's an attitudinal barrier that somehow employers feel that if they hire a person with a disability, they're going to be absent more, or that the accommodations required for that person are going to be something that they cannot absorb. The real thing to consider when you're looking at, I think there's a study out there, and someone may have the study, but the study says that it's something like 80% of accommodations for employees with a disability is under $500. So I can tell you, as a person with a disability that has worked in businesses and that have hired employees, that the benefits far outweigh the yes, Trisha's got a comment in there, but anyway, the benefits far outweigh the cost of any accommodations. And really what people have to do is get their get their minds around that attitudinal barrier that persons with disabilities are going, they're going to be absent more or sick or, whatever. They really have to look at the potential for that individual over and above the fact that they have a disability. So I always like to say my ability is much stronger than my disability. And Trisha's just shared a 4-year study by Accenture that proves that employing people with disabilities increased their profit margin by 30%. So I will tell you at my husband's business, Girl in Apparel Graphics, we have hired people with disabilities, and I basically am the COO and I'm a person with a disability. You've really got to consider the fact that the person with a disability is not going to cost you more than you're going to realize in benefits from hiring that person. So I mean, Accenture, this is a large company, but their study proves that employing with disabilities increased their profit margin by 30%. Those are real numbers. This is again where we talk about accessibility really improving your bottom line. So Zach, I hope that answered your questions. So any tips for prospective employers? The other thing that we really should point out here is under the AODA, there is an entire employment standard. So that's, that's something that businesses need to understand as well when they're looking at their, certainly the recruitment and hiring processes, that they need to build accessibility into that as well. So that's something that is up for consideration. I just want to go back. I'm kind of conscious of time. So anybody that's got any individual questions, I'll drop the link in the chat to book your free 15-minute consultation. That's to talk about anything related to accessibility or accessibility for your individual business, or if you've got some questions or concerns or some things you'd like to bounce off me, then we can have a chat about that. Just book your time. Our next webinar, as I said, May 24th at 1 o'clock. That topic is going to be, what is the AODA? Why does my business need to comply? So in that webinar, we're really going to be talking about the standards under the AODA and why businesses need to comply. So certainly hope that you'll join us for that. If you got something out of today, which I certainly hope that you did, then I would encourage you to follow us on social media, to engage with the webinars. As I said, we're doing 6 of them in 2022 with a number of topics that are all about why accessibility is good for business. Also engage with our partner organizations, which really are experts in the business community. So certainly the Chamber of Commerce, and the fact that David and the Chamber has come on as a partner for this series, to me really shows that that they, as a business organization, understand the importance of accessibility in the business community. The Brant Resource Center, a great resource for businesses as well, and also for businesses considering accessibility. I would, like I said, please book your free 15-minute consultation. We will go ahead and cover, anything you want to in relation to business. I think we've covered any further questions. This is our contact information. So we do AODA compliance, staff training, assessments and audits, and we also do modifications, residential and commercial. And I will tell you that baby boomer population, we are really seeing a real uptick in residential modifications that baby boomers, require. All of a sudden, things like a grab bar in the shower is no longer something that they thought, was only for, persons with disabilities. It's now a safety issue just for someone that's maybe had a hip replacement or something like that. So we're really seeing an uptick on that. This is my direct email and our website. And I'm just, as I said, I will follow up with the link to the recording and the link to go ahead and book your consultation. And if you've got any questions, concerns, comments, or otherwise, please feel free to reach out to me or any one of our partners. And we are glad to have you with us as we cover the business case for accessibility today. Any call for any final questions? I think I'm scanning through the chat. Trish, thank you so much for helping me with the technical difficulties. Thea says thank you. Yes, so last call for any questions. Otherwise, I appreciate you spending your valuable time with us, and we look forward to talking to you again next month. Okay. On that note, okay. Bye, everyone.